to the live stream today. I'm so happy to have you here. I see that there are a few of you out here already. So if you are so inclined, say hello, let me know who's there. Hello, David Petrandria. My brother David is here. Yay! We're doing some family recipes. Yeah, family recipes. One of them is today, so maybe you'll have some input about that, and we can talk about that together. So, for all of you who are here, I am Coco Huff, cocohuff.com, COCOHOUGH, where we talk about everything in and about the kitchen, which for the past 27 weeks now has been mostly these live stream cooking videos where we're talking about how to master the little techniques that make everyday recipes more delicious and easier to manage, so that when you're looking at your list of ingredients or the steps in a recipe, you kind of know what you're going for and what the goal is and how to manage it. And we've made some really delicious things together so far. Hi Denise, welcome from Westwood. Denise, I hope you don't mind my telling everyone, Denise just sent me a picture of her crepes that she made, which looked fantastic. So Denise made a ricotta filling with cinnamon and chocolate syrup on her crepes, and she said she was inspired by our crepe video, which made me so happy. Which leads me to something I wanted to say, which was, first of all, I would love your requests. Any requests that you have are always welcome. I don't know if Suda is here right now, but she sent me a very long list of requests, and I was like, that is fantastic. We'll have plans for weeks and weeks to come. And I also love your pictures, so it just makes me very happy when you send me pictures of what you've made, that we made together. It's just fantastic. It makes it so much fun. It's always so much fun. So let's see. Oh good, thank you Denise, that she didn't mind calling her out, which now that I already did it. Thank you Denise. So last week we were off for a week. I took my kids and we went and worked on a farm, which was fantastic. We gathered eggs and we saw the cows being milked. We fed the baby cows. It was fantastic. And I have some footage from that I'll be putting up this week. My list of videos to make just keeps getting longer and longer, but we will definitely be talking about the farm. We'll be talking about our maple syrup, which is done now. We gathered 13 gallons of maple syrup over the past month and a half. That's probably a different video, but that's what's been going on this past week. And then the week before, most of you were here. My dad was here, and we made gnocchi, and it was so much fun. So my dad will be back again. We have a lot of Italian family recipes and some other things that he has perfected over time. And then today we're talking more about my Armenian heritage. I'm half Italian and half Armenian. And we're making a Greek Spanakopita, and then we're also doing an Armenian version, which is called Boreg. So let me say hello. Hello, Teresa. I'm always happy that you're here. And Diana, I'm always happy that you're here too. So we got some yums and hellos, so thank you. And jump in at any time with questions. So let's talk about the Spanakopita, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to start melting some butter because we need quite a lot of butter. So let me grab that. And so basically what this dish is a spinach pie. In this case, we're making them like hand pies, like little triangles, which is what I'm more used to. But you do also see them like a full casserole dish or a pie dish. Whoa, this butter is like leaking out of this wrapper. But a similar concept. So everything we're doing today could be applied to that type of Spanakopita as well. You see that in diners where it's actually cut into triangle wedges after the fact, not made into triangle wedges. The only difference I see with that type is they generally add, it's a lot more filling, and not filling to you to eat it, but like more stuffing, and this generally has more eggs because there are layers of dough and then a thick layer of filling that has to stay together in a pie wedge shape so the eggs hold it together. So when you look at recipes, you will see that. But we're going to make little triangles. And then the Boreg is a similar thing. It will be a hand pie with more of a cheese filling, and both of them have parsley and dill. Oh, Diana's saying we should use the syrup in the recipes. It's true. Well, you'll laugh when you see how 13 gallons of sap like boils down to really a small amount of syrup, so we treat it like gold. But if it's like it's almost like a finishing syrup, you know, we could put it on something on the top. It's so great on ice cream and of course pancakes, and that's a very good idea. Okay, so we're going to talk about phyllo dough. What's happening here? Okay, I put the butter in the pan, and I'm also going to start the parts of the Spanakopita stuffing that need to be cooked. So that's starting with chopping an onion. It's just half an onion while I'm talking. But let's talk about phyllo dough, and I'll show it to you in a second to actually look at it. I have my compost bag down here. Sometimes my freezer gets too full to save things for stock, so I just put them in the compost, which is also great. But phyllo is a very thin pastry dough, and the end result puffs up the way puff pastry does, but it's actually a very different animal, and you treat it differently. So I'd love to know if any of you have worked with it before, and we're going to talk about how to work with it, you know, for the best result. All right, we're chopping an onion. My knife is sharp. I went across once already this way. I'm doing it again 3 times. We want this pretty finely chopped, so we have small pieces inside each pocket. Downward and then across one time. I hope you can all see me. It said it paused for a second, but I think we're back in action here. I'm putting some olive oil in this pan. In the past, when things have paused or buffered, it has not ended well for me. So, oh, what's happening? We'll find out what's happening. I'm just making these pieces a little bit smaller. And putting them in my pan with the oil. Catching up. All right, I'm sorry, I'm pausing for a second to look at myself. I think the video is a little bit laggy, but hopefully it's going to catch up as I go. I'm putting some garlic in there. This is sort of like, there are rules, but not that many rules for this part. You can stuff it with whatever you want, and if you wanted to make some totally different filling, you could do that as well. It's kind of true of most stuffed things. Alright, and in case we don't cook this and cool it fast enough, I have a filling already made as well. But right now I'm sauteing. We have a lot to do though, so we'll probably be fine. I'm sauteing half an onion, 1 clove of garlic, and then we're going to put in some scallions and some herbs. So, alright. If someone could just let me know that this is actually broadcasting through to you, that would be great. If it's not, I'll be posting this in the future on YouTube, but it's more fun when it is working. Alright, cooking away. And my butter is starting to melt, so that's a good thing. Okay, and I'm going to chop up some scallions. These are beautiful scallions. The spring produce is starting to come. They're very, like, robust. They're not floppy at all. So I can use almost all of it. If you're using whites and greens, you can chop up to where they get a little sad looking. But these are really nice. Compost. Okay. And I'll just run my knife through there. And I'm turning my butter off because we'll deal with that. I can already hear it boiling. So we don't want it to splatter everywhere. We just want to melt it, and then we're going to clarify it. Oh, good. Karen, Teresa, Jen, Charlotte. Good. Everyone's saying you can see and hear me. I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm so happy to see you all. Also, I meant to say thank you to everyone who has been helping me with this campaign to boost my YouTube channel. I really appreciate that. I'm kind of going all out this week to try to boost those numbers so we can move this platform to YouTube and then do some other things over there. I just think there's more of a future. No offense, Facebook, everybody will cut me off for saying that. But so I really appreciate that. My numbers went up a little bit today. I'm like, we're getting there. We have to get to 1,000. That's basically the goal right now, the immediate goal. All right, so all the scallions went in. And then the star is kind of the herb. We don't use that many herbs, but parsley and dill together gives it sort of this Greek, and the other one has it as well, Armenian flavors, and I love them together. So I have this bunch of parsley, just cutting off the leaves and leaving the stems behind, and any big stems that I see, I'll pull out as well. You can save the stems for stock. You can save cilantro stems for, they're more edible. You can save them for pesto, anything that's in like a blender situation. They're a little bit more tender, but I save the parsley stems for stock. All right, and then I'll cut through this, and half of it's going in my Spanakopita and half of it's going in my Borek. So Boreg is the Armenian version, like I said, and that is what my brother, David, who's here, and I grew up with. And we call them cheese triangles. And actually, I'll show you the Armenian cookbook I have. It also calls it cheese triangles. And we always ate them with sugar, so we're going to do that at the end too. Alright, so I'm chopping my herbs. I hope you all had a nice week and a nice Easter, a nice Passover, anything that you're celebrating. I'd love to know what you were eating too. We had a roasted leg of lamb, which was fantastic, and we colored 72 Easter eggs, which felt excessive this year. Like, the kids weren't as into it, and it was just a lot of eggs. They were into it, but they weren't into it enough to do 72 eggs. We had a lot. Okay, so that's about a half a cup of parsley. I'm putting half into my pan, and then half is going into this bowl for the other filling. And I've posted ingredients. I'll post the exact ingredients for both, so it's not confusing what we're making, which one is which. This is going to be the cheese filling, and then I have another bowl for the spinach filling. And same thing with the dill. Beautiful bunch of dill. It smells so good. And just cut off a good amount. I like dill in this type of recipe. I don't love dill in like a soup, like a chowder as much, but I do love it in this. It gives it a very distinctive flavor. Alright, and I want to chop that pretty fine too, because it has that kind of fluffy texture, which is not what we want. We want it to be fine. So in terms of chopping, I'm holding my hand down on one end of this knife and rocking. That's why a chef's knife is curved at the end, specifically to rock like this, or to rock like this when you're cutting vegetables and things. And just fold them over themselves and keep going like this. Okay, that's a beautiful pile of dill. It smells so good. It smells so good. Alright, divide that in half. Make sure I'm not forgetting, just a little salt and pepper will go in each one. And then we'll start with our fillings. We'll continue with our fillings. Alright, so this is the bowl for the cheese filling. Let me toss this. Our onions are wilting. Our scallions are wilting, our garlic is cooking, and those herbs are just that's too big, I don't want big chunks. Just a light saute, really, to get the onions to not be raw is the ideal here. And then we need to let it cool. So I'm actually going to turn this off because the burner will keep going for a few minutes, and let me get another bowl. Okay, so let me just run through the ingredients so I don't confuse the issue of going back and forth. The Spanakopita, which you see, like I've said, at Greek restaurants, and you see it frequently at diners. that's the one, you see it more frequently in the United States than Boreg, which is an Armenian version. The two cuisines have some similarities. So, Spanakopita, olive oil, spinach, onions, scallions, garlic, parsley, and dill, which we already did here. And then feta cheese and an egg. So that's what we're putting into this bowl. And then the Boreg is cream cheese, munster cheese, more eggs, a little bit of sugar, it's a slightly sweeter dish, the parsley and dill, which we have here, and a little bit of flour to hold it together. And then you'll see how they both make these little triangles. So what I was going to say about the cheese is obviously feta cheese is an authentic Greek ingredient. Cream cheese and munster cheese is sort of the approximation of the Armenian cheeses you would use. So you can sort of feel free to substitute, well no, not to be authentic, but you could anytime substitute one creamier cheese and one harder cheese and make something like your own cheese situation. What am I saying? Does that make sense? So what I'm saying is I meant to look up like what is the name of the Armenian cheese that's used as a munster, but I did not do that, so I'll post that later too. I have to find that out. So anyway, it's getting like too technical. My brother says, I remember I loved spooning heaps of sugar into the folds of the Boreg. And that is exactly it. And we're going to do that at the end. So you have the triangle that's wrapped up. And I have a block of feta here that I'm going to cut out. But we have our little spinach pies, and then you put sugar into like the folds of the envelope, which I'll show you. I chose a full block of feta as opposed to crumbled feta. So now I'm cutting it, and then it will sort of crumble itself. But I'm going, making slices and then stacking them, and then I'll cut across to make little squares, and then the squares will fall apart. But I find that this block, I think it has less, the crumbles have to have something added to them to keep them apart from each other. And this has just a little bit softer texture and a little bit better flavor. But there's nothing wrong with crumbles. I mean, they are also delicious too. Okay, so we have our feta. Yeah, it has a little bit less chewiness to it. It's interesting. And one egg. So I like to crack my egg into another bowl, if I can find it, so that if I broke shell in there, I wouldn't have to spend so much time looking for it. I always break my eggs into another bowl. So that's going in there. This is turned off, but I'm just letting it cool for a second. And then we have our spinach. So if you were using fresh spinach, you would use a pound or so to get the 10 ounces of cooked spinach, and you'd have to cook it way down and then chop it. I find frozen spinach to be a good product. There are some sort of like convenience products that either enhance or are equal in a dish, and I think it's nicely cooked down more so than you would get very easily with fresh spinach in that sense. But in both cases, actually, you have to take your rings off and get in there and really squeeze it dry. So if you can see how much liquid is in there and a lot more is going to come out, you don't want that in your Spanakopita. And that's true for like if you were making a spinach omelet or if you're making spinach dip, so I'm just clean hands, rings are off, squeezing this gently so it doesn't splash all over me, but I'm squeezing all the liquid out of it. You just don't want that liquid really in anything that you're making to cook spinach, because it's going to make everything soggy. So we want it dry, 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 dry. You could probably push it through a strainer with a spoon, put it in the strainer and push down on the mesh with a spoon if you don't want to get your hands in there like that. But this is really the easiest way. Just squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. I save this liquid. You can put it in a green smoothie or green juice. You can, sometimes I drink it and I'm like, I'm so healthy. Yeah, I'm healthy. I don't drink all of it. It's actually pretty high in sodium, but you could sip a little bit of it. It tastes like spinach. It's good for you. So hang on to that and put it in your green juice or your green smoothie. All right, I have my spinach here. You can see this is very dry. And this is all the liquid that, whoops, I spilled it. All the liquid that's in one package of frozen spinach. So you don't want that. Everything will be soggy. And I spilled it on my cutting board. Alright, so the spinach gets crumbled back up into our feta. Like this. And then we will work on the other filling while our onions cool for a minute here. And so that we don't cook our eggs. We don't want to make scrambled eggs in here. We're almost past that point. But we want to make sure we're not cooking the eggs prematurely so they hold everything together. And then this one's very easy. It's just a package of cream cheese, like I said. Softened, you know, at room temperature makes it a lot easier. You could use a farmer's cheese. You could use really anything you want. If you want to make your own, like American version or French version, you could put brie, you could put any kind of thing in there. But this is what, you know, the traditional one is. And a package of, a pound of munster cheese. So this is coarsely grated munster cheese. Going in there. This makes 30 triangles. The amount in the spinach one makes 15 triangles. So between these two, you will have quite a lot of triangles. And you could obviously double the spinach. Whoopsie. Double the spinach to make 30 of each. And that's like good size. You can make small ones. There's a lot you could do. Okay, so I'm kind of mushing the cream cheese. Did I put the eggs? No, that's going to make it easier. 3 eggs, so it will be a lot more liquidy. 1. 2. That just reminded me of one time I was rushing. I had too much going on at Christmas, and I was trying to crack an egg directly into the mixer bowl while the mixer was running for like a double batch of gingerbread, and I dropped the egg in and with the shell, and the shell just immediately went around. The shell was everywhere. It ruined it. I had to start over. It was so sad. So that's how I learned that lesson. Always crack into another bowl. It was terrible. I was, you know, when you're just staring in disbelief, like, how could this be happening? And I had to start over. Such is life. All right, we're stirring this up. This looks great. It all just incorporated pretty easily, with the eggs especially, you know. And a tablespoon of flour to bind it together. And a tiny bit, it calls for half a teaspoon of sugar. So I have more here because we're going to eat it at the end, but I'm just sprinkling some sugar on there and a little bit of salt. Mix that up, and now we're ready for business. Let's see here. Oh, my oven. I'm always so relieved when it stops making that fan noise. All right. So we have this one, and we'll put our onions into this mixture. So we're ready. Okay, we have our butter. This one didn't get any salt or pepper yet, so let's salt it. Put a little bit of pepper. And now we're ready for the fun part. So just mix this in. It just looks beautiful. It reminds me of spring. It's so green and vibrant. And the spring onions are beautiful. All right, it looks great. And feta cheese is so nice. So look at the colors. It's just very pretty. All right. Beautiful. All right, now it's time. We have our 2 fillings. Let me clean up this area a little bit. And I have some finished ones at the end to show you too. because they bake. I should say my oven was preheated to 375, and they bake for about 25 minutes. So, yeah, I did some in advance. That's going in there so I can make room. I need 2 cutting board areas now. I'm going to turn this one like this. This takes a little bit of prep. So we're going to talk about phyllo dough, which is right here. My phyllo dough is a different size than I'm used to, so I'm going to talk about that too and what to do with various sizes. Can you see what I'm doing? Yes. All right. And I need another cutting board too. Okay, we're all set. So, like I started to say in the beginning, we worked with puff pastry at one time. Puff pastry, the issues are, puff pastry first of all is a yeast dough, not this, but puff pastry. It's called laminating. They put, layers of cold fat on the dough, fold it to create layers, and then do it again. And eventually, over time, the microscopic layers of dough and butter are what creates the puff in the puff pastry. So phyllo is also a product of puffs, but not on its own. It's paper thin. It's low in fat, but it's so microscopically thin that when we add fat in the middle, which we're going to do with butter, it keeps its layers separate and puffs also in actually a more crispy way sometimes. So the issues with puff pastry are temperature based. Like you don't want to let it get warm because those layers of butter will melt out. The issues with phyllo dough are more about drying out and breaking. You have to be very delicate with it, and you can't let it get too dry. So I have this beautiful tray of phyllo dough. I'm going to take a kitchen towel and just like ever so slightly dampen it by patting it with some water, not wet, but like shake off your hand and pat it like that. Almost not at all, just a little bit, and then kind of ball it up. Just a tiny bit of dampness. And then when we're not using this stack, so you can see it's actually like, let me hold it under the camera, like a stack of pages like this, tissue thin. It's like a ream of tissue paper for wrapping gifts. It's so thin. So when we're not using this stack, we're going to keep it covered with this damp towel. You could keep it covered with saran, like just anything that is not going to just dry out while you're working with it. And then we have our butter, which we melted, and it has a little bit of the solids on the top, so I'm going to clarify it by just taking a spoon and getting that off the top. It's kind of an extra step, but it makes it just more delicious and smoother and more like an oil. Okay. And we'll put that back over there. And okay, now we're going to start the process. So we want to take one sheet at a time of our phyllo. This one, ooh, this one's ripping a lot actually. It's okay if it rips. Lay it out flat. That was not a good start, but it's gonna be better. Lay it out flat, and we're going to brush it with butter. So I have pastry brushes here. I have 2 of these silicone ones that are kind of fatter bristles, and I find that this is not a good one for this job. I mean, it'll get the job done, but I would almost rather use a piece of paper towel and kind of dip it in the butter and rub it over this than use this, because this just drips everywhere. So I actually went and got a new one of these. This has hairs like a paintbrush, so you can be more delicate. So the goal in terms of the butter is, you can see this is already drying out actually. You see these lighter spots? This one is drying out as I'm speaking, so let me hurry up. We're going to be light-handed with the butter, but thorough. So you don't want it like dripping everywhere, but you want to get it everywhere. And the other thing I need to say is this phyllo is much smaller sheets than I see normally. So when I opened this and I went, oh, I didn't think about it. Usually they're another third wider and much longer. So I'm going to sort of give you the math for what to do if yours are like this, or what to do if they're the longer kind. But what we want to end up with, this gets faster with practice. And you know, you just kind of line them up, and it doesn't have to be totally perfect, because you'll see when we roll them, you kind of cover up a lot of sins. But you want to end up with about a 3-inch wide strip. So in the case of this size, that means we're going to fold this in half lengthwise after we brush these 2 layers with butter. And just kind of gently dip your brush into the butter, and now I'm folding in half this way. I have a 3-inch strip. If you had the bigger kind, you would take 1 sheet, brush it with butter, and fold in thirds. So you sort of end up with the same amount of dough to spinach ratio in the end. So in this case, we're taking 2 sheets and folding it in half. With the bigger one, it's 1 sheet, buttered, fold it in thirds, butter this top layer, and then get your filling. So we'll start with the spinach filling. I need a spoon. And just, you know, not a teaspoon of measurement, but a teaspoon that you would actually use to eat with. About that much goes at one end, like this. And then you take one corner and fold it so you have a point here, like that. And you've already buttered all of this, so as you go, each fold is creating layers in between. And then fold upwards, fold your triangle over, and then the next fold kind of closes up this edge, like that. One more fold. And I'm finding that I have, with this side sheet, I have this little tail left over. So brush some butter on the top, brush your tail, fold it, brush this top side, and then we'll put it on our baking sheet. Let's see. Put it on our baking sheet, seam side down so it stays together, and we made one. So, like I said, it becomes a process. It gets faster as you go, but we'll do maybe 2 of each together so we get the hang of this. This piece got a little bit crumpled, but let's see. Let me turn it this way so the crumpled part is kind of inside. And like I said, it's so tissue delicate, you just have to work with it carefully. Okay, and go a little bit faster. So has anyone here worked with Philo before? They also make those like Philo pastry cups that are already, I think those come already baked, which are nice for appetizers, but these are the real sheets. You can also do Spanakopita as rolls, which I've never done. And you can do them as tiny triangles for hors d'oeuvres. These are kind of dinner size, but you could do, maybe we'll do a tiny one after this too. And then you put like 100 of them on a little tray and you have a beautiful hors d'oeuvre. So, and then like I said, if you are making it as a pie that you would cut up later, your filling will have more eggs. And then you do this process of layering and buttering in the bottom of your dish. Put your filling on top and then do it again on top. Do another couple layers of Philo, that's probably enough. And butter on the top and bake it. And that will be beautiful as well. Okay, so it's fairly simple. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually very simple and it's fun to do. This is a good one for kids. I love giving kids tasks like this, you know, make triangles. They can do that, they're good at that. Let me try one mini one. Let's see how we would do it for a party. And the other thing I was gonna say is if you make these in advance, you can put them on your tray the way I'm doing, so they're not touching each other, and freeze them. And then you don't even have to thaw them to bake. So it's a good make ahead dinner for a crowd, for your family, and it's so healthy with all the spinach and everything. So that's another good thing. Once you bake them, it's almost like a croissant. Like, it's always better the first day. They can get a little bit soggy, but you can probably crisp them back up in the oven as well. So all is not lost, but they're better the first day, right out of the oven. All right, and like I said, light but thorough, so you want to get all the way to the edges. Oh wait, so I'm doing mini ones now? Let me think. I think I'll still fold it. How many should they be? Let's fold it and then cut this in half lengthwise. So a lot of recipes just say to make layers and then cut them into long strips, but I find that if you fold your strips instead and use fewer layers, it's more finished looking. Let's try this though. Like I said, you can play with it. You can do whatever you want, really. So I have these little strips now. Oh, I think this is going to be cute, actually. Let's see. So these are buttered and layered. And we can make some little hors d'oeuvres, too. Look how much filling I have. We're obviously not going to make all of this right now, but it feeds a crowd. All right, a tiny bit on there. Triangle. Oh, yeah, that worked. You just need at least 4 folds so that this end is sealed. Oh my gosh, that worked so perfectly, because look, our little triangle. Oh, that was impromptu, and I'm actually really excited. Look how perfect it is. So we'll put that on the tray. We'll do one more like that. That's too much spinach. All right, so one more, and then 1 or 2 cheese ones. 1 cheese one is probably fine, right? Look at that. So if you just spend a couple hours doing that, you have a really nice hors d'oeuvre for a dinner party. And the big ones make a nice first course, or they make a nice entree with like a shepherd's salad, tomatoes and feta and cucumber together with some oil and vinegar. That's really beautiful. I'm really excited about these little babies. Look how cute they are. Those are going to be great. So I'd say those probably cook for 15 minutes, not 25 minutes. But you just check that when they're golden brown, they are ready. Put that over here, and we'll do 1 cheese one as well. Okay, does anyone have questions? Did I just talk your ear off about puff pastry and phyllo? Like, there's just so much to know, but it's not complicated. You kind of have to know what the issues are. Like, is it temperature, is it dryness? And then once you know that, you know how to work with it. So we've learned about the puff pastry, we've learned about the phyllo, and now you can really make anything you want. You can make a chocolate phyllo thing. You can do so many different things. Now you know, whoops, to do not what I'm doing. Let it dry out, make sure it has the butter, and you need layers, and that's it. I'd say this is easier. I like this. I think it's easier than puff pastry. Oh wait, we're doing cheese. I love working with puff pastry, but when you're thawing it, you have to worry about, like, am I letting all the butter run out, and is it going to work? And this, you don't have to worry about that. It just works. All right, we have our Boreg filling. I don't know if Tanya is here. Tanya, oh wait, we need one more sheet, sorry. Tanya wrote to my post this morning and said, I'm an Armenian Jew, which I knew. So I'm wondering if you grew up eating this as well, if you are here. Okay. Last layer, cover this back up. You don't want that towel to be like wet though, because you know when you touch wet things to things made of flour, they turn gummy. So that is not our goal here. Some recipes use oil for this brushing, which I think as long as it's a fat, a clarified fat, you're fine. If you were dairy free, but then obviously you would have a different filling too if you were dairy free, but that could work. That would work. All right, 2 layers. Now we're folding them in half. And like I said, if it was the bigger sheets, you'd fold it in thirds, but it would end up the same width, this like 3-inch width. Okay. Tanya's here. Yay. Hello. Welcome. I am curious if you ate Boreg growing up, and did you put tons of sugar in the little pocket? All right, so here's our Boreg filling. About a, heaping tablespoon. And all that cheese is going to melt inside. That's too much. Heaping tablespoon. Okay. Make our triangles again. Fold it up. And over. And up. Oh, that one actually lined up. Why is it different? I don't know. But it lined up perfectly to make a square. So we're finishing on a high note. Ah, perfection. It's like anything, after a while, you get really good at it. Tanya said, I'm sure I had it, but my mother cooked more Lebanese. Ooh, more Lebanese than Armenian. She made a great spinach pie. That's cool. Lebanese food is also delicious. Okay, so I think we've got the hang of that, right? So we made 2 Spanakopita, 2 baby Spanakopita, 1 Boreg, and these are 2 more strips that I'll use for 2 more babies later. And now, for the moment we've been waiting for, let's look at the finished ones. So these I made earlier. Oh, they look so good. They look so good. I made these earlier, a few of each, and they cooked for 25 minutes. And then they've sort of been hanging out in the oven for a little while. And are you ready? Ooh, look how beautiful. So they got golden brown. Can you hear it? I'm not sure. They're crispy. Oops, that piece just flaked off so you can see. They're crispy and very, very flaky, like they're going to crunch. And so we have 4 of each kind. And let's make some room and plate some and char it up. Oh, and also this, I'll see if this is still in print to find. I think this is from like the 60s, Armenian Cooking Today. My mother has a copy of this. I have a copy of this. This is all of the important recipes that we need to make. Oops. Okay, I'm so excited. Teresa says they look so good, and you can hear it. Yes, okay, that like crispy little sound is just so yum. Oh, that side looks really good. David P says, clapping emoji. Thank you. All right, 1 of each. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. They look so good. I need a knife. I mean, you could just, oh wait, which one is the Boreg? I'm pretty sure this is the Boreg. So what we would do as kids and as adults, my parents still do this, I'm out of spoons, is take some sugar. And so you see when we folded them, you end up with this little flap here. There's like going to be one side that you can get something in. So we put the sugar in that little, whoops, that little flap, if it will go in. Ah, it broke. As far down as it will go in there. Or just dip it in sugar. But let's try it. Let's cut it open. Oh, it's so flaky. It's so flaky. That's crazy. Wow. All right, so it just crumbled completely, which just means this is very crisp and flaky. And you can see our Boreg filling in there. And let's try it. It's hot, but that is so good. It's like sweet and savory and cheesy and pastry all together. That is delicious. Oh my God, so good. David says he has a copy of Armenian Cooking Today also. It's a really good one. It kind of makes them accessible to Americans with the ingredients and stuff, which is nice. And then we have our Spanakopita. You can see again how just those 2 pieces of phyllo made all of those layers like that. And then our spinach filling is in the middle. So yum, 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 yum. Let's try it. It's hot. That is so good. I'm a savory food person. I love savory food. They're both delicious. But I love the feta and the spinach and the herbs and salt and pepper. That is delicious. So this has more sweetness to it. This one is really savory and salty and so good. Yum! I'm gonna take one more bite. I'm burning my mouth, but it's worth it. Okay, so that was fun. So you would serve this on a plate with your salad here and a knife and fork, so it's not so messy to eat. These little ones, you know, cocktail napkin, 1 to 2 bites, maybe even make them a little bit smaller. And you have something really delicious and pretty easy to make, and also that you can make it in advance and have them ready and just cook them up when you need them. So I'm just so happy that you were all here for this. It was really fun to do. I hope you'll try it at home. Try working with some phyllo and let me know how it goes. It's fun to do. And like I said, it's great for kids. It's just a good ingredient to work with. And you'll have a whole delicious repertoire in your kitchen. So Tanya said, great crunch. I know, that was really good, right? It did sit in my oven like a little extra time, and I'm glad it didn't get soggy. It actually probably got more crunchy, so I thought that was really good. So if you have questions anytime after this, just message me. I love it when people do that. And we'll be back next Tuesday with more live stream cooking, and I can't wait to see you then. So replays will be on my YouTube, Coco Huff. If you don't mind taking a look, I would love to see you there, and let me know what's going on, and I'll talk to you soon. It was wonderful cooking with you. Thank you all, as usual. Love to you. Bye.